Hello and welcome everyone to another Versus video. I'm Brad Nelson. I'm joined today by Todd Anderson.
Yo.
And we are playing Legacy. We're taking a little break from Standard. I do like the format, and later this week I will be playing BBD with one of my favorite decks that I'm just jamming down your guys' throats.
Yeah, I will not be playing Standard this week.
You will not. But today we're actually going to be playing Tom the Boss Ross's Infect deck. Well, I'm going to be playing it because I want to.
I feel like when you say Tom the Boss Ross, you should be putting sunglasses on when you say it, like the boss.
I feel like we should have had this joke already set up, and I could have brought my shades.
Well, I'm sorry, I just thought of it right now. My apologies.
Amateurs.
Yeah. Oh.
But
all right.
Let's take a look at Tom's Infect deck that he not only was able to top 8 2 invitations in a row with, but has just been crushing with it on the opens and online. He's been streaming a bunch with the deck lately, and the deck is good. It's just tough to play with and against. Once you learn it, that's a good place to be.
Yep.
Let's see if I can learn it. All right, so starting off, we have 12 ways to actually win the game. Well, I guess you could consider Noble Hierarchy.
I was actually just about to say, like, Noble Hierarch, I've seen people kill with this card. Berserk gets them so big sometimes that, like, you can even afford to give them 3 life with Invigorate, and then Vines, and then Berserk, and then they're dead.
Yeah, because they take so much damage on their own, and they don't really care about their life total.
Yeah.
But mostly we're just going to count to 10.
Yeah.
And that's with Glistener Elf.
We actually forgot one very, very important thing.
Oh, yes. The only token that I've ever been okay losing for is my buddy Tom. But 4 Ink Moths, Blooded Agents, and Glistener Elves. Now, the basic strategy of the deck is to attack them with one of these guys, get it through, Invigorate, Berserk. Now that is level 0 with the deck. Is just getting them dead, like with a Daze backup, so you can just have the perfect draw. Like the perfect draw for the deck is turn 1 Glistener Elf, turn 2 Invigorate, Berserk with Daze backup. Yeah. It's just unbeatable. They have to have double counterspell. Yeah. Or a removal spell and a counterspell. And so they need their own Daze. But I guess Force. Man, this format has so many cards that answer things. But outside of just the basic combo, the deck can nickel and dime as well, using Pendle Havens to just get small amounts, the Noble Hierarch's Exalted triggers. Just nickel and diming while the opponent plays scared out of their mind that they can die at any moment, because that's what this deck can do. It can kill at any time. I've even seen Tom's opponent go turn 1 Show and Tell and then be dead next turn. Because he just put an Emrakul into play, and he put Blooded Agent to play, attacked, and Invigorate, Berserked it. Yeah. And said, good game.
That happens. I actually played against Infect on camera with Sneak and Show a few weeks ago, and I probed my opponent on turn 1. He didn't play Blighted Agent like 2 turns later. I turn 3 like Show and Tell, put an Emrakul, and he puts in Glistener Elf. I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me if my Emrakul's a 3/3 or 15/15. It's still going to annihilate 6. And then next turn he attacked and conceded. But when it is Blighted Agent, Show and Tell is actually incredibly dangerous in that matchup. And it has to be a Gristlebrand to find Force of Will, or you're just going to be dead.
Yep, and that's exactly it. And now the rest of the deck can do a lot of interesting things. Now, we could go blue in our face trying to talk about everything this deck is capable of doing, but let's just talk a little bit about the 1-ofs and the 2-ofs. So first off, we have Crop Rotation. This is a way to protect us not only against Wastelands. When they target one of our lands, we can just sacrifice and go get something else, but it allows us to get a Wasteland when it's important, to get a penalty when it's important, and most importantly, finding us a win condition. It can just go grab an Ink Moth and start pinging away, or be lethal depending on what our hand looks like.
Yeah, I do love the crop rotations in the deck. Mostly, I don't know, is there a Crocus on the board still?
There's no Crocus.
I feel like that's a little bit of a mistake, but I mean, I understand that he doesn't really care that much about Crocus.
He's also just hated the Crocus every time. He's just never done anything.
It's from the Sneak and Show player side, it's just so devastating. Like, my whole game plan is to try to force through 1 spell, and then to just have like a 1-mana spell that goes and gets something that completely invalidates it, or you just have it naturally. It's just, there's an argument to be had for and against it, and Tom's played the deck a lot more, so I'm gonna concede to him, but at the same time, from my side, it's devastating. So.
Yep.
Bring in a little Zach Hill.
Yeah. DI Mize Gas. But there's a bunch of random 1-ofs that I will never try to explain. Like, I actually love the 1 Stifle because people have to play around Stifle all the time playing this deck because everyone knows the deck has 1 Stifle. So the best thing about, like, bring the cameras up here real quick. The best thing about having a 1-off Stifle, and now this is the genius of it, is that because everyone knows there's 1, sometimes they're going to play against it, but sometimes they're just going to get blown out by it even though they know it exists because they're like, oh, he only has 1. Let's do this cool thing. And you're just like, Stifle. And just being a 1-of means that it can be shuffled away with a Brainstorm. It's going to get value.
Oh yeah, everyone plays fetch lands. I mean, very few decks in the format don't actually play something that Stifle just obliterates.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes stifling a wasteland that's trying to kill your Inkmoth Nexus is absurd. Sometimes just stifling a fetch land so that your opponent doesn't have the ability to put pressure on you, or develop their board, or to find an island to cast Spell Pierce or whatever. It's a very fantastic card in a vacuum, but it's actually really bad in a vacuum, but it's like fantastic in Legacy because there's all these weird interactions and weird triggered effects that happen. So
I mean, there's things that you can do with it, like counter Restored Forge Mystic ability, even if you draw it after that, counter the Jite trigger to kill them, counter a Liliana -2, so they tapped out, we fought over this Liliana to kill my one guy, and now I just stifle it and kill them, and there's just so many interesting things that this one Magic card can do in this deck. But yeah, let's go back to explain cards that I have no idea why they're here. Like the Sylvan Library.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Sylvan Library? I thought you said something pretty interesting about this card earlier.
Pretty much, I think the reason that it's in here is because people play scared against this deck, that they will oftentimes try to be defensive in their opening hands, and this is a card that punishes being defensive.
Yeah.
Because it's card advantage, it's manipulating the games that are going to go long, and in any of the fair matches, especially at like a tournament like the Invitational, where a lot of people like their fair decks and their decks that can control the games, this is going to be a backbreaking spell if it ever resolves, and it's worth fighting over because they can't punish you. They can't go over the top. The decks that Infect are worst against are the ones that are just like as powerful combo decks as this deck is, like Sneak and Show, or most importantly Storm.
Yep.
Those are the bad matchups. The decent matchups are the ones that try to interact with you a ton, because any stumble they have, you just exploit. So I can see why that's in here. A couple probes just to take a look. A Ponder, because one Ponder, I play one Ponder. I think one Ponder's sweet.
All right, so this is actually the biggest kicker for me, and I love Tom because he does this, but 2 Force of Wills.
Yeah.
Not 3, not 4, not even 1, just 2.
Yeah.
Why 2?
Well, it's because you are kind of a resource hog kind of deck, and a lot of your other blue cards you do like to cast, but these are just here as like something you can draw into.
Yeah, it's like if something goes wrong, I have some Force of Wills to dig towards.
Yeah.
There are a lot of situations where having a Force Will win you the game on the spot. I know that coming from a combo deck's perspective. But, like you said, this deck is a resource hog. We have pump spells with Vines, Invigorate, Berserk. We don't always have that extra blue card. Sometimes we have to cast our Ponder to find one of these to try to kill them. So if we have 3 or 4 Force of Wills in our deck, the odds of us drawing a bad Force of Will as opposed to a good Force of Will is heightened. So.
Oh, for sure. And I hate the argument that, well, whenever you draw 2 forces, one is just a Force of Will, one just gets pitched, is because that makes your opening hands look so much worse. I'd much rather have a Brainstorm and a Force of Will and say, oh, if I don't need this Force of Will, I can Brainstorm, instead of always being forced to counter something.
Yeah.
And that's just like backwards logic that people use to justify playing too many Force of Wills in the format.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's backwards logic a lot of people use to play Brainstorm too. Like they have all these like they have all these 1-ofs in their deck, and they're like, oh well, it's okay to play this 1-of bad card because I can just shuffle it away with Brainstorm.
Yeah, I mean,
I can pitch it to Force of Will to counter something. No, exactly. No, but I mean that there is a lot to be said about playing powerful specific 1-ofs in a deck with so much manipulation. Like this deck actually has less manipulation than some of like the Delver decks in the format, but at the same time, this deck attacks from a completely different angle and generally puts their opponent on the back foot, so they actually have more time to like draw into a Brainstorm to shuffle away the dead card.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm pretty sure. Let's just go try to stumble our way through his sideboard. And then we will, we will get to battling because this has been a long time. It's a good. No, I'm saying it's a good conversation. I'm not saying apologize.
Brad never really wants to talk to me.
It's true.
Let's go to the sideboard.
So here we are with the sideboard. That yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. First,
all right, start Piracy Charm. Go.
Oh well, this card I can explain. This
kills
card
a Delver.
Kills Delver.
Makes them discard a card.
Pumps your guy. Can make them discard their last card.
Pumps your guy. Okay, it gives you a +2/-1, so if you've already pumped your guy.
With an Exalted Trigger. Or Pendelhaven.
Yeah.
That's extremely relevant.
There are things. It is stuff.
This is a charm that all 3 are relevant. If they're trying to like Force of Will to kill. If they're trying to Force of Will, you can make them discard that one of their last cards. Or is this the Island Walk one?
It's both.
It is.
It's Island Walk, discard,
we can give Island Walk's pretty relevant too.
Yeah, it's just blue Funeral Charm. I don't know if you remember Funeral Charm.
Swamp Walk though.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Pardon.
But yeah, this one also just kills Grim Lavamancers, kills Delvers.
Yep.
kills elves. It's just like a good removal spell for a blue-green deck. I don't really understand the 2 Nature's Claim 2 Viridian Corruptors.
So,
I mean,
all right, so here's the thing. This kills enchantments and
Okay.
artifacts.
This
This
just kills
only
them.
kills artifacts. The
But I'm
four
curious
life
what-
also irrelevant.
I'm curious what artifacts that we're spending 3 mana to kill.
I don't know. I mean, I can see the appeal of having more ways to just kill artifacts or enchantments, but also having threats to do so. Like, Viridian Corruptor is just a very powerful card in a lot of situations against decks that have, like, Chalice of the Void.
Yeah.
You know, just, like, decks that have a
That's
lot of
true, it's an
artifacts. And so,
Chalice.
you just, like, turn 2, kill the Chalice, and you have a guy. It's a double, you know. You get to turn on all your spells and have a threat. So, I mean, it's great.
Blue Elemental Blast is because on Magic Online there are a lot of mono red decks that he wants to
Yes,
metagame
there
against,
are.
and he doesn't want to take these out of his real life deck.
He's a ridiculous human being.
Yeah. 2 Necropede are just more infect creatures that are good against Grim Lavamancers and Death and Taxes, things like that, where you just want to get value out of your spells. I don't know if this comes in against Swords of Plowshare matches, but I guarantee it comes in against Grim Lavamancer decks, because Grim Lavamancer is so annoying for the deck. 2 more forces against combo decks, Bog that you can crop rotation for against any deck that's trying to beat Graveyard, a Dryad Arbor that you can fetch for or crop rotation for against Liliana of the Veil, because that woman hates 1 mana creature combo decks. I know from experience that it's awful. And then 2 Submerges for any of the other green matchups, the mirror matches, Rug Delver.
Oh yeah, there's this thing about Legacy where when you see a card that has a very specific reference on it, like if your opponent controls a blank, they're just dead if you draw.
Yeah.
So you probably want to play a few of those in your tempo.
They're just so
combo
high
decks.
impact. Yeah, it's just and the cool thing about Submerge, we'll bring it back up before we end this, is that with fetch lands, it's a force. Like you're forced to fetch. Now, if you like Path to Exile something in like, you know, Modern, they can choose to go get a land or not if they know the top of your deck. You can just say, no, I'd rather not shuffle. But if you crack a fetch land, you're forced to shuffle even if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So if they go crack land, you go in response, Submerge your thing, and that just shuffles it away.
Goodbye forever.
Goodbye, Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
We didn't love you. And that's the powerful thing about Submerge. Also, it's a huge tempo play. You can just like, when an elf deck is like starting to combo off, they can just like play they go Glimpse, and then they go Guy, and with their last mana, they're going to play Guy for Heritage Druid, and you just bounce one of their elves, and now they just that invalidated their entire turn, and you get to untap and probably kill them.
Yep.
Or hope they don't have a Glimpse to go off again. But yeah, that's blue-green Infect, or green-blue Infect, and it's not a Devotion deck, whatever, it can be called blue-green.
Yeah.
It's not Devotion.
It's way more. I don't know if it's like half and half. So
It is half. Blue-green.
Oh goo.
Ooh, goo.
Or ugh.
All right, well, we're going to go to battle. We don't need to do deck tech on Rug Delver.
Yeah, I'm playing Rug Delver. I'm playing Kel Thompson's version from SCG Syracuse a week and a half ago. And the only change is that he had Pluto Delta where I have Scalding Tarn. I actually do like playing...
So you're saying I can Pithy Needle Scalding Tarn now?
Yes. I actually do like playing fetch lands that kind of shadow your colors that you're actually playing. Like, when you lead with a polluted delta, it's much more likely your opponent just runs headfirst into, like, Stifle or something. So, like, you know, there is value to playing fetch lands that aren't Scalding Tarn, but for all intents and purposes, I don't actually have polluted deltas. I have Scalding Tarns. My apologies. What are you going to do?
It's not that big of a deal.
I just want to say, I actually do appreciate... I mean, I like to play frickin' Flooded Strand in my Sneak and Show deck.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I mean, I you know, as a Deathblade player, you want the lands that can fetch for every single land.
Yeah.
So you just need blue-white and...
Yeah, but when like you have your
black,
deck
white.
built to any blue fetch can get any land in your deck or whatever, like you want you want to hide them as much as possible. Like information is huge in this format.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, like I said, I was telling him a story, then we'll quit, I swear, is that I lost to a Miracles player because until turn 4, I thought he was Sneak and Show, because he just played Basic Island, fetched for Mountain off of Scalding Tarns, played Basic Island. And I was just like, oh, he's just Sneak and Show. I was like thinking I was going to die next turn, and then he's just like, fetch Tundra Stoneforge Mystic. I'm like, we were so wrong. This hand of counterspells is going to be great.
All right,
anyway,
we're going to go
battle.
fight now. Yeah.